Welcome back to the channel. We're going to get right into it today, and we're going to talk about 3 things that I did or perhaps cut out of my life that made my RETATruTIde experience, which I still am currently on RETATruTIde, probably 15 to 16 weeks into using RETATruTIde, the triple agonist, the for research purpose only sort of gray market or research company gotten GLP3, if you will, the triple agonist, what I did to enhance my fat burning. If the thumbnail on this was appealing enough to say, oh, wow, he did lose weight. I definitely have lost a lot more weight in my midsection. I continue to lose love handles. I continue to get lean. I am definitely sub 15% body fat. Not only does my DEXA from a week or two ago confirm that, but I am continuing to lose weight. And the one caveat to sort of drive right into this, as you've been listening, welcome. If you have not been listening to my content, if you have been listening, welcome back. One of the caveats, the disclaimer that must be brought up right away here is I'm like 6 to 8 months into like a very intentional caloric deficit, meaning if I eat between 15 to 1800 calories a day every day and the occasional 2000 calorie day, I don't even know if that still happens, but let's just say that I do, that is a good caloric deficit for the amount that I expend. And that is, right around where most of us average sized Americans, whatever that is, because I'm an average sized guy. I'm about 5'9" if I'm lucky. And I'm, used to be 185 when I was like really round and chubby, which wasn't that long ago where I crept back up to that. Typically, even at 175, 179, not very appealing in my eyes. And now at 163 to 165, I really feel really good, really confident, really lean. And my exercise regimen, for those who are new to the channel, it's very simple. I lift weights 3 to 5 days a week. It's really interesting how I do it, because really you could say that I resistance train 5 days a week. But 2 of those days, I'm like, if there's 5 days we're referring to, it's a lot is like body weight stuff. I'll do pull-ups, I do push-ups, I do some just core and planks. I'll do very light weights from time to time. And then there's those 3 days that I'm talking about. I go as heavy as my body can handle without getting hurt, being mindful and being careful. Very, very quick workouts, 20 to 40 minutes. Really, really maximizing the intensity. And then a lot of intentional cardio. I take 2 to 3 walks a day. My main walk is just about 3 miles, occasionally a little over, sometimes under, but then I have 2 other walk windows, if you will, with the dog that we go for 10, 15-minute walks, things of that nature. And those are, I'm walking fast and with intention. I think sometimes I look kind of weird walking as fast as I do, but I'm out there trying to raise my heart rate, trying to get this metabolism, into calorie burning mode. And not because it's so calories in, calories out, but because you want to stay active. You want to give your body that, metabolic demand to sort of burn through energy if you're really trying to lose weight, which again, if you're watching this video, that means you are. So as the caveat goes, 6 to 8 months that I've been doing this. So if I accelerate fat loss now in month 6, month 8, whatever it is, that I'm like finally beginning to just like really get lean, obviously that happens further down the line. When you initially start, you might lose a good bit of weight on the scale and feel thinner, and that's great. That's what we call water weight. A lot of that is excess glucose. Glucose follows sugar, follows sodium, follows water. That's what happens when your body is switching from a sugar burner, as so many amazing influencers have put it, to a fat burner. When you're tapping into fatty oxidation, when you're tapping into lipolysis, burning fat for fuel, ketosis, right? That kind of thing. You are obviously not going to be relying on like all this processed, garbage, sugar and glucose spikes and insulin like I talk about left and right on this channel. So what have I done to accelerate fat loss? Well, one is just time and repetition, the dose response to my body and how efficient it's being at burning fat. That's number 1. So we're going to get that out of the way as our caveat and disclaimer. And now I'm going to tell you the 3 things that I did. So sorry that I said that's number 1. That's like, that's preface, that's introduction. This is going to be the 3 things that I did. Okay, number 1, I reduced drastically the heavy cream in my coffee in the morning and the heavy cream that go into my bulletproof and or banana smoothies and or whatever shakes that I do. So whether it's sort of a intentional protein fat shake or if it's a protein fruit shake, I reduced my heavy cream substantially. I was probably getting close to 2.5 tablespoons of heavy cream in a shake. I now do 1 tablespoon. I'm literally allowing the heavy cream that goes into the shake or the heavy cream that goes into the coffee to be that 50 calorie 1 tablespoon. In other words, I am making sure that the amount of fat that goes in, because it's so calorically dense, and I've talked about this in other videos, and we're going to get to number 2 soon. It's not that fat is bad. Fat is fantastic. Good fats from heavy cream, from butter, from peanut butter, from walnuts, macadamia nuts, whatever it is you like, whatever you tolerate, pistachios. If you're eating a controlled amount, almonds, whatever, a controlled amount, they are very good for you. The problem is we consume too much of them because our appetite sort of allows for it. And next thing you know, your 150 calorie snack or your 180, whatever the range is snack, turns into a 350 to 400 calorie snack. And you're not even understanding that that's almost 500 calories that you just ate. If you maybe even nibble on something else within an hour, you're heading towards a caloric surplus, not just for the day, which adds up for the week or the month, and now your progress is stumped. So heavy cream reduction in the coffee is the number 1 thing that I did. The number 2 thing that I did, and by the way, this was because I was plateauing, and I have a video from about a month ago where I said that I had plateaued. Number 2, I have just about every day, sometimes every other day, sometimes every third day, but every day, to make sure I'm getting my 100 to 150 grams of carbohydrates, I have a 70 calorie, 20 gram of carbohydrate piece of toast. Dave's Killer Bread toast. And I have that with either peanut butter or just butter or some cheese or some avocado. And that's like the only carb I have in a given day, not for the week or whatever, but like in a given day. Well, what I did was I cut that toast down to 2 days a week. So that means out of 7 days, only 2 of them was I having 1 piece of 70 calorie toast, not the 120 calorie, not the whatever your favorite bread is, not your homemade, what's the one that people like? Sourdough, because it's made different, it's lower on the glycemic index. Excuses, no offense to people that take, don't be offended. It's just the way that it is. I have Dave's Killer Bread because number 1, it goes bad faster. That's a good indication of real ingredients. If it goes bad fast, it's probably kind of good for you when you eat it. And Dave's Killer Bread gets moldy and starts to go bad fast. So I trust it. On top of the fact that it's multi-grain, it's got all the little minerals and vitamins packed into it. And guess what? It's the least amount of ingredients when it comes to these breads that you see on the shelf. And at 70 calories, and I can trust that it's 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrate per what I'm putting in my body, instead of doing that, once a day, 7 days a week, because my calorie, allows it calories in, calories out. But my body, that is a little bit too insulin sensitive to the fat cells and thus spilling over into the liver and, is not good for you. I've done this before in the video, so I'm not going to do it now. The science to fat cells dripping, insulin, and then all that being picked up by the liver and fatty liver and all, which I just started doing again. So cutting that down to 2 days a week. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing that I did was oatmeal. I was having things like eggs and oatmeal, or oatmeal with protein, or oatmeal as like a fill-in snack because I wanted to put a little maple syrup in it, because that is allowed on my diet that I do. It is allowed in my opinion of your nutrition plan. I believe real honey and real maple syrup are things that you can definitely add in with, especially when we're talking about drizzling teaspoons on, right? Dripping in the liquid stevia. I mean, we're talking about very little to get a little bit of sweetness. It's not so bland. It makes it enjoyable. A little cinnamon, right? Not brown sugar, but a little cinnamon with a little maple syrup. It's definitely allowed on my diet plans. And what I did was I reduced that from a half a cup to a quarter cup. Not kidding. I reduced my possibly about 25 grams of carbohydrate. And if I overdid it, would be like 50 grams of carbohydrate. That's half my days of grams of carbohydrates in one sitting. And I reduced that to a quarter cup. And my metrics tell me with the type of oatmeal, I have that fine grain oat bran, or it's not oat bran. I just forgot what type of like the oatmeal, the fine oatmeal. And I was eating just a quarter cup of that as like my snack. And so that was sort of the third thing that I did. So I reduced my oatmeal drastically. I reduced the amount of Dave's Killer bread per week that I was eating drastically, and I reduced the amount of heavy cream drastically. Oh, and by the way, if you want to add something into that with reducing the bread, the peanut butter that was going on the bread was now just a scoop of peanut butter, literally one scoop of organic peanut butter, no additional oil, no seed oil hidden in there, peanut butter once in a while. So that 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, which is, close to like 80, 70 or 80 calories or whatever it is, again, I'm not having 160 calories from peanut butter and the 70 calories from the bread. I hope that makes sense. I literally intentionally cut out those things, and I was waking up more hungry in the sense that I was fasted better. I was clearly leaner and less puffy. That's the big telltale sign for me is my face leaner? Are my arms leaner? Is under my chest leaner? Just those things where my body likes to be big and puffy and bloated, and gets bloated pretty easily with a lot of other things that I eat, which we won't get into in this video, but definitely very, very, very lean now, even since my DEXA. I'd already done that leading into the DEXA and was leaning out, but that means like almost the last month. I don't know what the scale says. My last weigh-in, or the DEXA had me at 165 pounds. I'm probably 163, 162 if I'm lucky, but this is what happened with those 3 intentional things. So what didn't I do? Well, I didn't increase my RETadose past 1.5 milligram, although I did increase the concentration by reducing the amount of BAC water that I was reconstituting my peptide with, which is interesting because I've been a bit more hungry with the most recent company's RETaTruTIde that I've been using. All the Reta that I use at least states that they've had the third-party testing. I want to trust it based off of what I think I know and based off my own research, but I cannot be 100% sure or reliant on the facts. Again, this is not an FDA-approved, peptide. This is not something that compounding pharmacies that I trust it's not something they're making. So just like anyone else who's using this in the world, unless you're a real freaking genius scientist who's making it at home, I don't know where else you would get it, and you have to take that leap of faith like I do, like Jen does, and we've both lost considerable amounts of weight. But in conclusion, this should show you it really does follow sort of a calories in, calories out model when you're eating the right food, but also making that great intention. You're putting in all of your efforts to be in a calorie reduction, a caloric reduction type of nutrition program that's emphasizing fat loss. And as a caveat, as another side note, you will lose muscle. Not as much as you would if you weren't doing resistance training and eating protein. You're going to preserve as much of your lean mass as you can in that way, but you are going to lose some amount of muscle. You are going to, possibly feel lethargic unless you're doing everything properly in terms of rest, recovery, supplementation, the right nutrients, and in the intention of eating your meals to get the calories you need that's enough to sustain energy while you're working out. It's really not as simple as having a GLP-1 and not eating. That is a bad recipe for fat loss, weight loss, muscle loss, bone loss, hair loss, stress, and sickness. If you do a GLP-1 very mild and you make an intention to lift weights as much as humanly possible, do resistance training, saying the same thing twice there, I apologize, getting your protein, taking your creatine, using the right supplements, understanding what other peptides may benefit you, you could have a lot of success and then head more towards the body you really want. And of course, as we started the video with, time. Be patient. You cannot beat a bad diet. You cannot have another peptide to make up for whatever it is you're doing inappropriately in the kitchen to continue to consume energy and put on weight, especially if you are already struggling with insulin resistance and fasting, glucose and A1C or high lipids and triglycerides, things like that. That's why you do the labs, to actually know how you look on the inside and how much wiggle room you have for certain, not just peptides, but the way you'll respond likely to also certain foods. So, all right, guys, that's it. We're about 15 minutes in. And if you need anything, go ahead and comment below, reach out. My name is Dr. Perlman. Me and my wife, Jen, run a functional wellness clinic, if you will, here in Plano, Texas. And we look forward to being able to serve you in any capacity we can. Thank you.